Hi, family, and welcome to our Thinking Thanks Tuesdays. So, for today, as you all know, on what we do on Tuesdays, this glasses can't really see here the light. So, hi, family, and welcome back on our Thinking Thanks Tuesdays. So, as you all know, what we do on Tuesday, we look at the headlines or we look at what has been making headlines in South Africa and around the world. And without wasting any time, as we've got a lot to do to talk about today. Today we look at our headlines again. As all remember, last week, our last thinking tanks, we did the Swatini unrest. We did the sentencing of our former president Jacob Zuma for 15 months in jail, which we're gonna be discussing more of that today. And we also, what else? Also discussed the collapsed building condo in America. So for today, without wasting any time, we are going straight to what has been making headlines this past week since we last spoke. And if you've been following South African news, you will know that this was quite an interesting week I think it was last week or Tuesday, when they announced that our former president Jacob Zuma was going to prison for 15 months. And then after that, going through the weekend, it was just chaos. So we were held hostages in South Africa by former President Jacob Zuma's supporters in Nkandla, and also others came all over South Africa. They were not just from Nkandla, but the gathering or the meeting place was in Nkandla. So we were held hostages in South Africa, and the ransom was former President Jacob Zuma's freedom. So we are still there. We don't know what's next. So at the moment, he is not in jail. He did finish his 5 days, which it was supposed to have been Sunday, but then there has been a lot of back and forth from the judiciary side as well, containing our President Jacob Zuma's sentencing, because now there's a lot happening. I don't want to speak out of my mind. I would like to give the actual facts of what's going on around the sentencing. And also in Swatini, there's still the unrest going on as well, and the people still unsure where is King Swati, because there's rumors that he is here in South Africa, and the unrest is still happening. So we'll also, if we have enough time, look at that. So without rambling, let's get into this week's Thinking Tanks news. And also, I think a few months ago, we also discussed the NPA and the Guptas and so on. So there's also some sort of a developing story when it comes to the Guptas and the NPA. As you all know, the Guptas are supposed to be here in South Africa facing the case of state capture as well in allegations of fraud and money laundering, racketeering. So for today, we still don't know now when seeing that the 5 days are over, and then we knew that if the former president didn't hand himself over to the police within the 5 days, then within 3 days the police ministerial is supposed to go fetch him, or supposed to take him to jail. We still don't know what's going on around that sentencing, because there's been an appeal. There's been trying to appeal a court decision or sentencing. It's been going crazy, people. If you've done law in South Africa, now it's the time to really get confused, because you know that once the court takes a decision, then you can't challenge that. But in this day and age, we are seeing that it can be challenged. So we still don't know what really is happening, because even legal experts, they do say the 50 cent and 2 cent. Last week we were happy that there's nobody above the law, We were happy that the law of South Africa, the judiciary of South Africa, was taking its rightful firm hand against anybody which thinks that they are above the law. And then this week now we are back at, okay, what is going on? Does it mean that if you've got contacts, or does it mean that if you've got money, you can even challenge any decision from any court? So we're still trying to understand that, because we really, I feel like as people, we need to be able to understand the constitution. What is the constitution? How does the constitution protect a person? Because the constitution belongs to everybody in South Africa. And for the former president of South Africa to be tramping down and looking down at the constitution, it's kind of disrespectful, because I, as a normal citizen, how am I supposed to respect the courts if the former head of state doesn't respect it? Whereby, if he feels like he's going through a midlife crisis and he doesn't want to do as he is told, he can go and bash anybody and he will have enough supporters because he was once a public person. So come on, people, we need to start getting our things. So I feel like somebody needs to sit us down and teach us how the constitution works in South Africa, because it kind of feels like it depends who you are. You can't have citizens tramping the constitution, tramping the law for an individual, and you think that's right. Because the reason why we have the constitution in the first place is so that South Africa doesn't become an apartheid state where it serves the minority and just kills the majority. That's one of the reasons why we have a constitution. It's to protect each and every individual in South Africa. So if we're going to have a constitution and also have individuals which they don't feel like the constitution, or if they don't feel like the judiciary is towards their favor, they can go and throw their tantrums out of the street, out of the roads, then which means we haven't achieved anything. We just like the same as in apartheid, because some people have more powers than the others. So that one, I really want a legal expert to try explain to us, how does the constitution work in South Africa? Because this thing of the law, if the law that is blind, if it doesn't care whether you've got money or not, the law is the law. It doesn't work. It seems like when you've got money, you can argue until the kingdom come. Anyway, let's check what's the latest. Okay, in front of me right now, I think I've got Becky Cele, so we'll find out whether he's going to arrest Zuma or not. Which I'm not saying he must arrest him. All I'm saying is I am disappointed when it comes to the court decision, whereby it can go back and forth like any other court decision. I thought that the court decision was final. Anyway, let's see. So in front of me, I've got the South African. It says Jacob Zuma latest recalcitrant lawbreaker in the wrong court. Less comments. This was written 5 hours ago. So it says here, we are dealing with a repetitive recalcitrant lawbreaker in the form of Mr. Jacob Zuma, and he has now come to us to ask you to assist him in breaking the law further. This was how Zondo Commission advocate Tembeka Ngcukaitobi summed up former President Jacob Zuma application for a stay of execution of the order for warrant of his arrest in the Pietermaritzburg High Court on Tuesday. Jacob Zuma filed the last-ditch court application in a bid to avoid jail after he was found guilty of contempt of court and sentenced to 15 months imprisonment in the Constitutional Court last Tuesday. He was found in contempt of court after he defied a court order to appear before the Zondo Commission. He also filed an application in the Constitutional Court at the same time on Friday, 2nd July, for the contempt of court order to be rescinded. Arguing in opposition of the application, Ngcukaitobi said Zuma had exhausted at least 6 opportunities to respond to both the Commission and the Constitutional Court regarding his appearance before it, and he had decided not to do so. Okay, Toby presented his argument in a visual Pietermaritzburg High Court hearing before Judge Begi Samnguni. He said the court order was binding and a lower court could not interfere with the constitutional court judgment, and the notional that if it could was radical misplaced. We are dealing with a repetitive, recalcitrant lawbreaker in the form of Mr. Zuma. He has now come to ask you to assist him in breaking the law further. Further, you should reject that. You should reject that. Number two, we have a strange scenario where he had asked you to suspend an order of a higher court. You should reject that. And number three, Mr. Zuma has continued with his law-breaking attitude now, drawing some inspiration by the conduct of the police, he said. As difficult as the current situation is, Mr. Dalim Mpofu spoke of security concerns, but in situations like this, the law needs to be pronounced without ambiguity. The judiciary needs to speak without ambivalence about the correct legal position. Today, the correct legal position could not be clearer, he said. He said he was referring to the hint of violence in the court papers should Zuma be arrested. Mugai Toby argued that no person or institution could legally interfere with the functioning of the court and that Jacob Zuma's refusal to hand himself over was an act of interfering with the court. He has defied the Constitution. What should you do about someone who has defied the Constitution? You should dismiss the application, he said. He said Jacob Zuma was supposed to have been arrested on Sunday when he did not hand himself in but instead remained in continued contempt of court. This is a grave matter that there is a litigant who has defined himself outside the ambit of the law and outside the constitutional authority and outside the judiciary's authority. Your Lordship should dismiss the applicant entirely because he is in the wrong court, he said. That's what we have on the news from the South African. It was written by Elias Commons, and that was 5 hours ago. So today they was sitting and arguing why Zuma shouldn't go to court, and Zuma's lawyer now is, I don't know whether it's a lawyer or attorney, is Dalimpofu, as you hear over there. So 1 minute the law is not good enough, the next minute the law must protect him. Hey, Zuma is another one. Okay, the Tele Major U10 Minister now says police will arrest Zuma. Let's see. Okay, was 11 hours ago, and it is also by the South African. It's a Tele in Major U10. Minister now says police will arrest Zuma. In the last 7 days, things have moved at a frenetic pace for Jacob Zuma and those trying to make him face the music. Since he was sentenced to a 15-month stretch in prison, Sholos has fought tooth and nail to avoid the slammer. Overnight, it looked as if Bekitela would help him with that, but the police minister has now changed his tone. A U-turn to Nkandla, Bekitele signals change in tone. In a letter addressed to the Constitutional Court, Mr. Tsela explained that he would not give the order to arrest Jacob Zuma until his court challenges are finalized. That, however, will be in direct violation of the guidance given by Corn Court, to the point where the top cop himself could be found guilty of contempt. This legal shock to the system has seemingly changed Tsele's outlook. He appeared on Newsroom Africa this morning to clarify his stance on the Zuma saga. The minister is now arguing that his initial hesitancy was to allow space for legal proceedings to develop naturally, but ultimately SAPS will be guided by Concord's directive. Who am I to tell the court anything? There were no ifs and buts. It was a straight issue until these twists and turns came up. All we are doing is seeking clarification, and we are not opposing. Whatever the court tells us to do, we'll do it. We are not lawyers. We are at the end tail where we take instructions. We are still bound by any direction that the office of the DCJ gives to us. We are not saying we'll sit there and wait. What we are doing is creating space for things to be finalized. Whatever direction is given to us, we will take it. Bekicele. Police Minister says Jacob Zuma can be arrested this week. Cele was also pushed to explain if his new stance meant that we could expect to see the arrest of Jacob Zuma this week, and the Heart Minister believes that this should happen by Thursday. He explains that he is giving Ubaba until the last possible minute to hand himself over. Otherwise, once the clock strikes midnight tomorrow, Zuma will be detained. We have written the letter, and the UNSIN is on the Concord to direct us. If we do not receive that, we have a direction that ends at midnight on Wednesday. If we then receive no new direction before that time, the South African police will have to arrest Jacob Zuma if he doesn't hand himself in. We only have 2 days to go with this. Okay, that's what you hear. So apparently, if nothing changes, well, former president might still be going to jail regardless of the appeals going on. For him trying to avoid jail time. Okay, let's see. There's another one from Soweto. I just hope that I will find some news regarding the weekend, like who was Bankandla, your Kalni Hayes, your Ace Mahashules, your Tony Yengeni were all there, and how factionalism they are. Okay, this one says special ANC NEC meeting rejects request to form Jacob Zuma task team. And this was Sowetan Live, and it was written by Andy Siwe Makinana, Tabo Mukone, and Hutatso Madisa, and that was 14 hours ago. Says it was roundly rejected, said an NEC member who spoke on condition of anonymity. The proposal was apparently made after the KwaZulu-Natal NEC provincial leadership tabled a report in which they called for the reinforcement of NEC deployees to the province. They mentioned a lot of things happening in the province, including how there is this group of military veterans that has been disruptive and shutting down highways. Among other things, they also spoke about the influx of foreign nationals from Eswatini due to the turmoil in that country. And they were saying because so much was happening in the province, they needed more NEC deployees to calm the situation, said the source. It was seemingly in response to this proposal that Zuma supporters called on the party to establish a task team to deal with issues around the former president. It was not clear, however, when they were questioning what exactly would the task team do. According to the source, they were told the Zuma matter is in court, said the source. Another NEC insider said there was some silly proposal that there be a task team set up that will deal with Zuma and all of the shenanigans. But people question why we need task team. That you don't need a task team. All you need is the NEC deployees to be reinforced in KwaZulu Natal. We said Nkandla is not the only problem that we have in the country or in the province. There was also some flirtation to say that because Zuma is old and that the sentence is harsh, but that was turned down. ANC policy guru Joel Nenchitenze allegedly suggested that at the start of the meeting that they should not discuss details of the Zuma case. He said, "We cannot go into the nitty-gritties of the case because we are not lawyers and that there is a court process. Ours as the organization is to reaffirm our support for the rule of law in all the institutions of the country. We must not try to turn an NEC meeting into a hearing or a trial, Nechi Tenze reportedly told the meeting. Okay, that's what's happened. That was what's going on at the NEC meeting. The source said this was the response given to anyone who tried to venture into the law. Source said the meeting was attended by former President Thabo Mbeki, but he did not speak. When Zuma logged into the meeting, sources said ANC National Chairperson Gwede Mantashe asked that he should not be allowed to participate since he was the subject of the discussion. After a brief appearance, Zuma left the meeting, according to sources. In the main, according to one source, the speakers condemned what had happened outside Zuma's home, speaking in general terms. Angry Acting Health Minister Mamoloko Kubayi apparently spoke out against the Nkandla gathering, calling it a super spreader event and saying that it will be difficult to convince other South Africans to comply with regulations after the event. Kubayi allegedly also criticized the postponement of the NEC meeting, which was to start on Friday. She said what happened in Kandla did not need a cancellation of the meeting and that no clear leadership was provided after the cancellation, according to a source. She said, we must not create an impression that KZN ANC members have a special membership of the ANC, that when they sneeze, the whole country comes to a standstill, said the source. ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa is said to have slammed what transpired outside Zuma's home on Sunday, telling the meeting that what happened in Kandla was well orchestrated. Ramaphosa was delivering his political overview at the conclusion of the special meeting after a weekend at which Zuma supporters threatened political violence his, uh, over his impending arrest. The looming arrest stems from Constitutional Court judgment last Tuesday that found that found him in contempt of court by failing to obey a court order that instructed him to appear before the Zondo Commission of Inquiry into state capture. Zuma has vowed that he won't allow himself to be sentenced to jail over the matter, that the court sentenced him to 15 months for contempt for failing to give evidence before the Zondo Commission. His supporters have spent the whole of the past week demonstrating outside his Nkandla homestead, threatening political violence over his arrest. But sources said Ramaphosa lambasted the threats of violence and the conduct of Zuma supporters at Nkandla. He said that what happened at Nkandla was well orchestrated from within the ANC, from people who want to project that the ANC will collapse if certain things happen, said one source. He said that what happened in Nkandla does not represent a popular uprising and the ethnic chauvinism that was displayed but must also be condemned. He commended the police for how they have acted because people wanted to provoke acts of bloodshed. The president said we must never question the sacredness of the Constitution and the Constitutional Court. Ramaphosa is also said to have called on the NEC to endorse a decision of the National Working Committee, which is in charge of the party's day-to-day affairs, to disband the Military Veterans Association, MKMVA. The MKMVA has been one of the ANC structures lending support to Zuma. And that's what is happening in ANC. Okay, let's see. So that's all the news today about what happened in Kandla and how the ANC and ANC members are trying to protect or trying to understand what happened. Okay, here's another one. That's also from Okay. It's also from different people of what happened this weekend in Ghana. It says this one is also from the South African. It says Jacob Zuma made his prison bed and must lie in its court now. Must lie in its court now. Here's okay. This was written 44 minutes ago. Okay, let me just press the like. I've been using this lady's news a lot, and I've never even pressed a like. Can't be that bad. Okay, let me just press the like. Close it. Just to give her support because I've been reading her news a lot. This is the second news bulletin from her I'm reading now. I don't know what's going on with this laptop now. It says this one says Jacob, it's from the South African, it says Jacob Zuma made his prison bed and must lie in it. Court now hears. It was 44 minutes ago. It was Blabely's comments. And the Helen Suzman Foundation opposed former President Jacob Zuma's application for stay of execution of the order for his arrest in Pietermaritzburg High Court on Tuesday. So, advocate Max du Plessis, acting for the foundation which opposed the judgment along with the Zondo Commission, said Zuma was no victim and he had acted with constitutional deviance in defying the constitutional court orders against him. Jacob Zuma was found guilty of contempt of court and sentenced to 15 months in prison in the Constitutional Court last Tuesday. He was given 5 days to hand himself over to the police, failing which the court had ordered that the Minister of Police, Bheki Cele, and the Minister of Justice and Correctional Service, Ronald Lamula, should take legal steps to arrest him to ensure his incarceration. The 5 days period was up on Sunday. Zondo Commission advocate Tembe Kaitobi had earlier argued before High Court Judge Bekisisa Nguni that Zuma remained in contempt of court for not handing himself over and that the High Court did not have the jurisdiction to interdict the execution of the order for his arrest handed down by the Constitutional Court. Du Plessis concurred, saying that the relief that Zuma had sought from the High Court was exceptional relief in that he was asking the court to interdict the ruling of a higher court. He said Zuma's advocate, Dalimpofu, had not presented a single instance of case law where a high court had interdicted a constitutional court order. Mpofu had earlier argued that a minority of constitutional court judges had found that the order against Zuma was in some respect unconstitutional and that the court had not seen the wood for the trees. He argued that the Constitutional Court was not supreme to the Constitution and that Zuma's right to not face detention without trial was being trampled. However, Du Plessis disagreed. The Constitution Court did not make Mr. Zuma's bed. Mr. Zuma made his own prison bed, and after weighing his dignity, the court ordered that he must now lie in it, Du Plessis said. He said Jacob Zuma had come to the High Court seeking special treatment. The woods are what burned. It is not the two trees of the minority judgment, he said. He said the court was being asked to do the most incredible, extravagant form of intervention. It is only the Constitutional Court that can overrun its order and only in exceptional circumstances. It is clear that you may not approach the assistance of the court until you have purged your contempt, he said. Du Plessis said that granting the interdict will send a chilling message to litigants that an order of the court may be of no consequences. Judgment was reserved until Friday, the 9th of July. So that we're still waiting to hear what's going to be the judgment on Jacob Zuma's case, which he's trying to fight by all means not to go to jail too, but apparently he is supposed to be in jail. So seeing that his pain is 5 days and he was not in jail, he now it's in the police's hand to go fetch him or detain him. Okay, I'm just looking for the last part of the news where I could find what he said on. Okay, Mahashule to be in the specialist meeting rejects request to former Jacob K. Mahashule to be investigated. Oh, I heard something about the organizers of the Nkandla gathering will be investigated. Okay, in front of me I've got ENCA, which is a television channel, as you all know, and it says Mahashule to be investigated, Dawete. Mbombeleni Mavunza, and it Mbombeleni Mavunza, and it was written 9 hours ago. It was Johannesburg. Suspended ANC Secretary General Ace Magashule is in hot water yet again. This time, the ANC says it will investigate him over comments he made over the weekend. Magashule was heard calling on disbanded ANC structures to disobey the leadership. Well, gosh. What we are doing is trying to understand. We will ask him to explain himself, said Deputy Secretary General Jesse Dowete, who was briefing the media on Tuesday. Dowete says there are no structures that are disbanded, as it will be favor of certain individual. She says this is an attempt to create discord among certain members of the party. So okay, I guess that's one of the reasons why I don't like to read the stuff which comes from television news, because you don't get a lot written. So I can't seem to find anything written from Jacob Zuma, what he said over the weekend. Let's just Zuma speech. Zuma speech. Because he did give a speech, Zuma media briefing. Okay, I think it's Zoom. It was media briefing. Media. So that was our news this weekend. All Zuma supporters were in Nkandla over the weekend. So let's see, Johannesburg, the Speaker of the Deputy Chief joining his own Wednesday briefing the media and public with regards to work of the commissions of Zuma displays high level of. Yeah, I think I want this one, because Zuma display high level of responsibility during his. Okay, we take this one. So I think yesterday he eventually did give a speech to his followers. This is from SABC News. As you all know, SABC is the South African Broadcasting Corporation. South African Broadcasting. Oh my goodness. Okay, it says that Zuma displayed high level of responsibility during his media briefing, analyst. And this was written the 5th of July 2021 at 8:30 a.m. SABC Radio, and it's at SABC News. It says, hopefully I'll be able to read something without it. It says, former President Jacob Zuma speak to supporters who gathered at his home at Nkandla, KwaZulu-Natal on Sunday, 4th July 2021. Political analyst Ongama Mtika says former President Jacob Zuma displayed what he terms a high level of responsibilities in his rhetoric during a media briefing at his home in Nkandla in northern KwaZulu-Natal on Sunday. Zuma compared his 15-month jail term to a death sentence and said he was at high risk due to his medical condition and age. This was after he ignored its ruling that he continued to testify at the Commission of Inquiry into State Capture, despite his claim that Commission Chairperson Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo was biased. Ntika has described Zuma's utterance and attitude as very disappointing. Below is the full report. Temporary. Meanwhile, Zuma has however welcomed the Constitutional Court's decision to hear his application. Remember, we're still waiting on the judgment of his application now, which will take place on the 9th of July. So, meanwhile, Zuma has, however, welcomed the Constitutional Court's decision to hear his application for his 15 months jail sentence to be overturned. The court will hear Zuma's rescission application on Monday, July 12. Zuma says he will not hand himself over to prison authorities in the meantime. Okay, I'm sure there's like an audio. We're not doing audio. So that was from SABC News, which is SABC News. I say SABC Radio. So this one will have like an audio, but you're not gonna listen to that because when you know our president can talk. So I couldn't get where I could have his speech when he was doing the media briefing. Hopefully, I thought I would have heard that. So I think we all know in South Africa now we are on level. We are still which level? I'm not sure which level, but yeah. Kandla protest organized by AIDS officials to drops a bombshell. Okay, this is the last news we're doing because it seems like we won't be able to do any other news today. It's all Kandla Zuma. If I try to squeeze any other news, it's just gonna be too long. So this is the last news we're doing for this evening, and it's back to Kandla again. Okay, it says here it's the South African again, and it's from Tom Hayde this time, and it was written 11 hours ago. It says Nkandla protest is organized by ANC official Doweto drops a bombshell. And ANC acting secretary ANC Acting Secretary General Jesse Dawit has revealed that the NEC are now convinced that the mass gatherings at Nkandla were not organized by citizens supportive of Jacob Zuma, instead suspecting that the illegal protests were actually engineered from within the ranks of the party. Do you really have to wait? ANC NEC share weekend resolutions after a tumultuous tumultuous week for the ANC. I'm not gonna look for a dictionary now. It's like the NEC had a lot to discuss. On the agenda was the troublesome behavior of the MKMVA members of the party. Dueta, seemingly in the mood to drop a few bombshells today, announced that the wing has been permanently disbanded and she wasn't finished there. Dueta also wants suspended Secretary General S. Mahashule to explain himself for telling disciplined members to defy rulings made against them. Several high-profile ANC members have been stung by the Integrity Commission, which requires representatives to step aside from their positions if they are accused of unbecoming conduct. Who organized the Nkandla protest? However, it was the ASG's Nkandla-related admission that raised eyebrows first. Duete started the meeting by explaining that the thousands who arrived at the former president's homestead to protect him from arrest didn't emerge at the venue spontaneously, but were instead instructed to occupy the venue by as yet unnamed political leaders. The NEC believes the situation in KwaZulu-Natal does not represent a popular uprising, but has been engineered from within the ranks of the ANC. The police deployed in Kandla managed the situation as best as they could, avoiding a situation in which deliberate acts of provocation may have resulted in bloodshed. We have ratified the immediate disband we have ratified the immediate disband the MKMVA and MK Veterans Council. The threat of undermining democracy and its core principles is counter-revolutionary. We have also noted the failed attempts at national mobilization of organizing shutdowns, lawlessness, and mass protests against the Concord ruling. Mm-mm-mm. Okay, that's all. Family, I won't even look for no further notes. Or I think we're already into 40 minutes into this news bulletin, and we've been discussing nothing but the ANC, the Nkandla. So we are not adding anything more now. So I think for today, that's all what we'll be doing. We can't do any more than this. So hopefully by next week we'll have different news, or we'll be saying something different, or how the constitution explain to us how you can take a decision of the constitution to a lower court. So hopefully they'll explain on how all of those work out. So thank you very much, family, for tuning in again this week on our Thinking Thanks Tuesdays. And thank you for the love, support, and please don't forget to subscribe. And please don't forget to share, comment, and also recommend the channel to your friends and family. And thank you very much for all the love. And hi to all our new subscribers. And thank you for all the support. I really, really appreciate it. Until next time, bye.